Oh, I ended that perfectly. I didn't actually mean to, but yeah, the song kind of, keeps playing after I change the scene. And I don't really control that, but that time it sounded like I did. How's it going, everybody? Good to see you, my good people. Menards. There's a hardware store in the Midwest. Maybe it's beyond the Midwest, but Menards. And the guy who, I suppose it's Mr. Menard, but we always laughed at the commercials because he'd say Menards, and he would like do this weird thing with his jaw, so it was Menards. Okay, so Menards, how's it going? It's Thursday, the 30th of December, and it's the Quilt Nerd Show. And let's see, I have so many things to tell you. I have great content today, and I'm very excited to be here. And I'm always excited to be here, but when I just said hello, I felt like my energy was low. It's not. I just have a lot on my mind, Yesterday, I canceled plans with one of my best friends in the whole world because as the time got closer and closer to go to her place, I got more and more nervous. I mean, everyone I know has COVID. Not everybody, but a lot of people in our close, world is sick. And I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't want to give it or get it or be part of giving it. And it was terrible. And so I called her and I felt dumb. I felt dumb. And she's completely careful about everything too. I mean, she's, but it was one of those moments where I made the call and I felt awful, and so that's been on my mind. And hey, Axel Rosie. Thanks for following. I'm so glad that you're following. If you don't follow me on Twitch or on YouTube, hey, everybody in YouTube land, by the way, Sonia and Nancy and the Russian troll. I'm so glad to see. I've missed you. Or bot. I think it's a bot. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just, I forget what I was saying. Just that was terrible. And she was, lovely about it. And yeah, so that's been on my mind. And someone in our building who I care about has COVID too. So I know many of you are going through this. And if any of you are ill, God, best wishes to you and for a speedy recovery. Yeah, we're just in it. We're in it. And the good news, is that we have something to do, don't we? We have something to do. We have this to do. We can be here, right? We can be here, and we're socially distanced because unless you're in the room with me, there's no way you can be near me. And I just took a shower, so I smell delightful. So everybody would want to be near me if they... I'm just kidding. But actually, it's good that I mentioned about the shower because you're going to see me sort of frizz as the show goes on. Hello, everybody. If you're new here, I'm going to tell you why we're here in just a minute. It's part of the intro. But I want to say hi to Mother Nature and Word and Bird Nerd. I have to jump in before perhaps I see her in the chat and say hi to Susan or Michael. I never sent you the notes. I'll send you the notes. I have thoughts about all this. Anyway, table talk, side talk. Talk later. Marianne. Hey, Marianne. England, the UK. You guys are, oof. We set a record, I think a worldwide record yesterday with a number of cases, 400 and something thousand. But I know things are rough over there too. Ivana, happy day indeed. Happy day. It's a happy day for lots of reasons. There's so many reasons to be grateful. Myra, I got that Instagram message from you. I have 2 words to say. Hell yeah, girl. No, I'm kidding. Hell yeah. That's great. I'm so glad that you liked the show. In fact, a lot of people said that the last show was a favorite, right? And I was nervous about doing talking about Tracy Emin because, I wasn't nervous about it, but I knew that some people would be turned off, right, by these quilts that have this profanity on them. And of course, Tracy Emin is an artist and a provocateur, and we talked about all that, and she knows quite well that some people are going to be challenged by her work. But I mean, look at you people. You're great, and I think people who were a little bit nervous to see that art, or were like, I don't like this, No, there wasn't like a mass exodus of viewers. So hopefully people who were like, I don't know about this, stuck around long enough to just, ponder it, right? Think about it. That's what we do here. It's what I love to do, is just like think about it, whatever it is, So I'm glad that was cool for you, Myra. That was awesome. NDH. I always want to call you NDA, non-disclosure agreement. That's kind of a good name for a superhero villain, like a nerd, non-disclosure agreement. Or no, maybe it's a James Bond. It's a James Bond villain, non-disclosure agreement, something like that. Hey, Ivy Kadivy. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're back. Belle has subscribed for 4 months, and I appreciate that. Belle was my first viewer. That's right, my first viewer. God bless you. God bless you. Quilting Politic, subscribed for 4 months. Thank you for subscribing. Ivana, there's news in this show about this tier 2 membership thing that's really not been happening at all, because I've been thinking about ways to make it good. And I think I have a way to sweeten the deal, right? But if you don't subscribe, I hope you will. Oh, if you don't follow me on Twitch or YouTube, that's what I was saying. Please do subscribe and like and all that stuff, because you'll get notified. Make sure you have your settings in your phone right. You get notified when I go live, and that's great, because I have a set schedule, and we'll talk about the schedule. But sometimes I just go crazy, and I just go live, and you might miss it if you don't do all that. So that's the scoop. Hey, Padma and Natalie, working from home again, indeed. Word and Bird Nerd it's 80 degrees in Florida. Marianne, you like the new tunes? Me too. Holmes is here. We've got, Ivana's going to an estate sale. Oh, yes. Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I'll be on for a while too. I have a couple business things to do later, but I have a lot to show you today and talk about. It's raining in Vegas, says Joyous Fiber. Cindy D is here. Hello. Miko, awesome. Are you new? I think you might be new. I'm glad you're here. DD Brew Crew is here. Our microbrewer. I just feel like you are. It's probably not related to beer, but I mean, maybe it is. Kelly is here, and a nun maker is here. Elaine, I believe. And everybody who's here. I'm really glad that, Belle says your 10-year-old just came out of quarantine after recovering from COVID. Oh dear. You were boosted. You were good. She recovered. I'm glad to hear it. So Mantra, welcome back. Rod, I'm glad you're here. Rod Walker. Do I know you? Do we know each other? We're about to. And M Hicks. Okay, great. Catherine, thanks for following. I'm glad. So here's what we do on the show. I'm going to tell you this and then give you some announcements, okay? Excuse me. I grew up around quilts, and a lot of people did. Maybe they didn't have a lot of quilts in their lives, but they had some. And some people have quilts that are very important to them, right? And the first thing I think people think about when they think about a quilt, and I'm talking about a handmade, a quilt that was made by a person, just one at a time, right? Like, there's quilts that you can buy, and quilts that are mass manufactured are also made by hand, right? The machines don't work themselves, so people are using their hands to make these things. But I'm talking about these quilts that are made by a member of your family, or a member who, sorry, I hit the cough button, made by somebody who didn't make a lot of the same kind. The kinds of quilts I'm talking about, And the first thing that we think of, right, is like, a bed. Quilts are for beds. They are, maybe they have memories, they make you think of someone, probably the person who made the quilt, right? Think of that. And and that's true. These things are blankets, and they're all this, kind of family heirloom kinds of things sometimes, but quilts are more than that. And I didn't really get that for a long time. I mean, I started making quilts because my mom is a quilter. I started making them at like age 28, which is kind of odd, because if you know me and you know my mom, which a lot of people do, because we're the Fons ladies, and the Fons ladies in the quilt industry are known, right? My mom was a very famous quilter for a long time. I am I don't know, I'm her daughter and I'm in the game, I'm in the scene, so people know me too. But because my mom was this, quilter with a capital Q, everybody thought I started making quilts when I was young, but I didn't. I didn't start till I was 28. So I started making quilts and working in the family business. I mean, by accident, really. I mean, I needed the money. Yeah, I did. I mean, I needed the money. I was a writer and I was a performer in Chicago making my living. I was freelancing. I was making it work, man. But they were like, you want to be on your mom's TV show? And I was like, are you going to pay me? And they were like, yeah. I was like, great. It was a gig. So I started making quilts around that time and I fell in love with it. And if you've ever made a quilt, you know that it's cool because you get the enjoyment of picking out your fabric, and then you get the enjoyment of deciding what pattern you're going to use, and then you get the enjoyment of making the quilt, which is really nice. Some people say it's a Zen experience to make a quilt. You get into the zone. People talk about these words come up a lot when you're making a quilt, right? You chill out, right? You think about your life, or you don't. You can think about your life when you're making a quilt, or you can definitely not think about it. You can binge watch stuff. You can listen to your podcasts. There's many things you can do while you're making a quilt. And then at the end of making it, you have a freaking quilt. It's pretty cool. And then it's not even done yet, because then once you have your finished quilt, you can give it to somebody, or you can keep it, or you can, if you really hate it, you can just get rid of it. But I hope you don't, because everybody has a first quilt. But anyway, so they have all these layers to them, literally. And what I found is, after I discovered all of that for myself, what quilts can give you and how wonderful they are, I wasn't done. I started looking into the history of quilts and the people who have made them in America specifically since Americans got here, right? The colonists didn't make quilts. That's a whole thing. This show is called Quilt Nerd for a reason. Lots of us know all about, quilts, and we'll set you straight on the history that's wrong. But my point is that people have made quilts in this country. Indigenous people have made quilts. A lot of them learned, most of the people who made quilts, who were Native American, learned how to do that particular craft art thing from missionaries, right, who wanted to bring them to church, right? The colonists, the people who were colonizing America, were like, hey, we could teach you how to make this quilt, and maybe you come to church. This happened a lot, right? That the people, like Mormon missionaries, sometimes were teaching the indigenous people where they were to make quilts. So it's a fascinating history, right? So you've got Native Americans, folks in New England, folks in the South, folks in California, like rich, poor, black, white, everybody makes these things. And the more I looked at that and realized that these things were much more than pretty blankets. They were documents, and a lot of times people who couldn't write their history down on paper for one reason or another were writing their history, if you will, in cloth and in thread. It's amazing. And then these things are like, it's artwork. Some of them are pretty basic, right? Some of these quilts are pretty basic, and some of them are masterpieces of art, design, whatever you want to call it. And we do call it art or craft a lot. It's a confusing question. It's a question we'll never answer, but we try. But even when the quilts are just very sort of fundamentally basic, blocks, it's this visual vocabulary of our nation. It's true. We have this common language of the quilt. So I became a quilt nerd, a certifiable quilt nerd. I can't get out of it. Every time I think I'm going to get out of it, they pull me back in. The quilts. So I love to research them because I'm a writer and an editor, and I lecture about quilts and all kinds of stuff. And so I'm always looking at them. And for a long time, I've been looking at all this groovy stuff alone, all by myself, And then the stuff that I would learn, I just get to, hey, Molly. Oh, Molly's here. Oh my God, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad. Hey, Susan. Quilters are magic. Sorry, I didn't send you the notes. Okay, I'm sorry. And where was I? Oh yeah. So I was looking at all this stuff by myself, because how much of this information can I really give in a lecture, Hey, Trevor. Yes, I have Twitch. So I decided to start this show, and at its most basic, its most basic description, right, is that I'm researching with you. in real time. I'm showing you the stuff that I'm finding, and we're discovering it together because I pull all of this content. You should see my file. If I had paper files like they did in the 80s, sorry, I keep shaking the camera. If I had like a big, file folder system like they did in the 80s, and that's foreshadowing because we're going to look at stuff from the 80s today, but not art quilts. We're going to look at traditional quilts from the 80s. My file would be huge. I would have to have a storage facility. But these days, I can keep all this cool stuff that I find on a computer. And so I have a bazillion files, So many icons. I'm drowning in icons. And each icon holds other stuff. So I grab stuff. I try to make it dynamic for you. I try to get, from show to show. We're going to look at like really old quilts, really new quilts, art quilts, traditional, and we talk about it. And there's usually like 3 or 4 things that I bring to show you. And I don't present this stuff. I show you this stuff. I discover along with you. And I ask you questions and you can talk to me. And it's just great. It's way, way better than doing this on my own and being very difficult at a cocktail party. Remember those? Because I can pretty much relate everything back to a quilt. And sometimes it feels weird. Sometimes I'm like, is it a thing that's like get a hobby, But the truth is that it's a gift. It's a gift to have a topic in your life or a specific field of study, something specific that you really love because it is a metaphor, right? And it does sort of ground a person if you have something that you are working on or something that you love. And quilts are pretty special. Now I'm going to get to the announcements. But quilts are special for lots of reasons, but they are sort of endlessly worth connecting to. That's a dangling participle. If I was writing that down, I would change it. So yeah, quilts are good. Quilts are good. Duck decoys, great. Quilts are better, sorry. Here are the announcements, and then we're going to talk about the quilt behind me. Oh, there's like a bird flying at my head. Ah! This quilt is for my friend who I didn't see yesterday. Wow, I could almost start crying about that. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. The big announcement is that I'm doing a show tomorrow night for New Year's Eve. Remember when I said I was worried that this is too much? No. I ain't doing anything for New Year's Eve out there. And maybe you're not either. And maybe even if you could do things out there, you're not going to do it. Even if you could do things out there, you're not that kind of New Year's Eve party goer. Oh, I've been that party goer. Yeah, I've had lots of fun. But I'm an old woman. And I don't want to. So, you know what? I haven't had a pedicure in over 2 years at this point, or 2 years. I noticed, the other day I was like, oh God, it's been a long time. Manicure too. Anyway, so I'm going to do a New Year's Eve show, 10:30 p.m. Central. I realize that'll be New Year's for only the people we'll celebrate Happy New Year. We'll do this. Happy New Year! That's my sound effect. It's all ready to go. And it'll be midnight for us when it is midnight at other places, I understand. I hope the people on the East Coast can stick around. And Molly barfed on a tree on New Year's Eve in 2004. Those things stick with you, don't they? They stay with you? Yeah, I've got a few. Although the worst thing, the most ridiculous I've ever been was not on New Year's Eve, So, what's my excuse? Oh, God. That's what I'm going to do. Maybe tier 2 and tier 3 subscribe. Maybe the tier 3 subscription that will come. So Twitch has $4.99 tier 1 subscription, which you can get with your Amazon Prime account, a free Twitch subscription every month. Amazing. Thank you, Amazon. So you should subscribe to this show through your Prime. You can subscribe for $4.99 at tier 1. You get access to these cool emojis, and you don't have to watch ads. And that's great. And tier 2, things are coming. But I think tier 3, if you're and that's $9.99, tier 2. But if tier 3 strikes your fancy, I think maybe I really do a Quilt Nerd After Dark show, once a month, And it's for tier 3 subscribers only. I mean, $24.99 a month. And like, if you subscribe to tier, 3 for like 3 months or something, I mean, Quilt Folk After Dark. No. I don't think Mike's going to go for that. But Quilt Nerd After Dark. The trouble is that once you start telling stories from your life on the internet, it's not good. So maybe we have just like a private Zoom or something. I don't know. So yeah, New Year's Eve, hang out with me. We're gonna do actually. This show is long, by the way. Did you know? Did you notice that? It's long. There's a New Year's Eve quilt. Yeah, there is, and I found it almost by accident. It was a lucky break. And also, hey Shasta, hey, great, Shasta blogged about my show. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Like, really appreciate it. I hope that everybody can pass it on. We love to see all the folks. All right, Molly's gonna be here. I'm so glad. And Mantra. Oh yeah. Well, maybe I can. If Eric will do more videos, I would love that. I'm going to do more videos in 2022. Anyway, I have a great idea. Speaking of Eric, he led me to the idea for the show tomorrow night. And I think I'm going to tell you because, I want your contributions. I'm going to do a show about quilts that were made in 2021. I mean, obviously, a year in review. 2021, the year in quilts, right? So, I mean, I've found some of the things, best in show, like these different quilts that I like from different shows that happened and all that. But if you have quilts that you made, I mean, some of you have a lot. Send me one. Okay, just send me one. But email it to me, okay? twitch@maryfons.com, because I got to stay out of the Discord because it gets a little crazy. So email me a picture of a quilt that you made in 2021. Your favorite or one that you hated but you finished, do that. And so the Quilts of 2021 is the show tomorrow night on New Year's Eve. And I think it'll be great. And so it'll be a frolic through Quilts of 2021. And I mean, groovy, right? So, and we'll do that, and I'm going to get some champagne, obviously, and wear a pretty dress, and I think I have my diamond earrings with me. So that's what it's going to be. So I hope you come. And then, let's see, there's no show this weekend, I don't think. And also on Saturday night, on Saturday. So there's a show Saturday. Wait, there is a show Saturday. Sorry. There's a show Saturday. I forget what time. It's on the schedule. But I'm going to preview a video that I'm making about quilts and fashion and how people have to stop cutting up quilts to use in fashion. And it's a scathing video. I pull no punches. And so I'm going to preview it for you, sneak preview, just to get a little bit of feedback, sort of brace myself for what might happen when I put it on YouTube for the world to see. So be there to see that if you want. And thank you to Dana. Finally, thank you to Dana and Jane for the donations. Totally awesome. I really appreciate it. If you want to donate to the show, there's a donate button on my About page on my twitch.tv/showmaryfons. Okay. Oh, God. I feel better. Okay, so the first thing we do is we look at the quilt behind me. It changes every show. Oh, twitch@maryfons.com. Let me put it in here. twitch@maryfons.com. That's right. Yeah. It's so weird. It wants me to log into Twitch to chat in my own chat. I don't think that's cool. No, we're not doing that. Okay, twitch@maryfons.com. twitch@maryfons.com, okay? And let's do this. Okay, I gotta go here. Help, I'm small. So the picture that I have of this quilt was too low res to properly have, behind me. So I tiled it because I just couldn't bear to see it all, pixelated. I just couldn't bear it. So here is the best I can give you of this quilt. And this quilt is, it's got embroidery on it, obviously, but it is heavily quilted. And for those of you who don't know, how a quilt is made, it's 3 layers. There's the top, which is all the pretty patchwork, all the pretty designs and stuff, right? The colorful part, usually colorful. And then there's the batting. In the UK, they call it wadding, and that's like the cotton, or the wool. It's like a big piece of wool, and that's what makes a quilt warm and puffy. And then there's the backing fabric. And the backing fabric's usually pretty boring. It's not always, but it's usually like whatever. People have used bed sheets. I've used a bed sheet. Oh yeah, scandal. Well, guess what? It works. It works. And that's the quilt sandwich, and it's not a quilt until it's quilted. So you see this like ropey looking, feathery kind of stuff. Again, sorry. Actually, you can probably see it better if I zoom out. Between the birds, there's this design. That's the quilting design. So you quilt this design into the quilt, and then but you also have the patchwork top, and so this wonderful combination. So so this quilt. So I was looking at this thing, and I found this. This belongs to the Art Institute of Chicago. Okay, and I was looking for the person who made this because she had an amazing name. The person who made this quilt, Jeanette Dean Throckmorton. Pardon me, Dr. Jeanette Dean Throckmorton. Okay, it was made in 1950. It's called State Birds and Flowers Quilt. Okay, so you have the state bird atop the state flower. Fabulous. Okay, so here's who this person is, and let me show you also. I want to show you a picture of Dr. Jeanette as well, so you can see. I guess what I'll do is I can pull up the quilt and Dr. Jeanette, right? That would be great. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I do this. Yeah, open recent. There it is. Hey. I don't like that. But you know what? I have so much content today all lined up that I have to be careful because I don't want to delete anything that I have. I don't want to disturb the piece. Oh, I know where it is. Okay, everybody. I've got it. You can gaze upon Dr. Jeanette there for a moment. Yeah. Okay, great. Here. So there's the quilt and there's Dr. Jeanette. Okay. So they didn't have a lot about this woman on the Art Institute website, but I found more. Okay. I found more. So here's who this is. It's crazy. All right. I'm just letting everybody be still because it's not going to be good if I lose this. Okay, here we go. So this is from 2018. This particular bit of content, the Lucas Countryman, which is like a sort of a blog kind of thing. I think Frank D. Myers is writing this from Lucas County. It's sort of it's somebody's blog, right? And this is some information about Dr. Jeanette because there was a quilt that maybe belonged to the town that was going on tour or whatever. We'll get the link for you in the Discord, I promise. So Dr. Jeanette, okay, this person says, this is Frank Myers, right? Writing in 2018. He says, Dr. Jeanette continues to hold a special place among quilters both state and nationwide. The artist was born January 26, 1883, at Derby, okay, into one of Lucas County's prominent family of physicians. So this is in Iowa. Wow. Okay, cool. I believe, yeah. Her parents were Dr. Throckmorton and Mrs. Throckmorton. A 1900 graduate, as in the year 1900, a 1900 graduate of Chariton High School, Dr. Jeanette went on to earn a degree from Simpson College in 1904, totally Iowa, because that is nearby my hometown of Winterset. Then enrolled at Keokuk Medical College, completing in 1900. She graduated from college in 1900 and then enrolled in Keokuk Medical College, completing the 4-year course of study there in 3 years. Okay, precocious. And then she graduated at the top of her class, of course, because she looks really smart. She practiced with her father, until 1919. They're in Iowa, but deafness had been an issue in her life since childhood. And by that year, in 1999, it was beginning to hamper her communication with patients. So she accepted a position with the U.S. Public Health Service as a traveling consultant and educator. I know, what a fascinating person. In 1928, she married another doctor, Dr. Dean. It was a classmate at Keokuk Medical College. Hot. Making eyes over the cadaver. I'm just saying it's cute. It's cute. It's meet cute. Oh, God. Oh. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Mary. Dr. Charles Dean became critically ill within days of their marriage and died 10 days later. Okay. Yeah. Remember when I said that I discover along with you? God, it was just, it's just bad timing, my stupid joke, whatever, let's move on, God. Okay, in 1929, let's focus on her, she's amazing. In 1929, Dr. Jeanette became head of the Iowa State Medical Library in Des Moines and remained in that position until shortly before her death in 1963. Wow, she was there a long time, it's so cool. Her quilting companion, she had a quilting companion during the years she was at her creative peak, was Frances Aunt Fanny Christ. Aunt Fanny, yeah, okay, who had been taken into the home of Dr. Jeanette's grandparents after she was orphaned and remained a member of the extended Throckmorton family until her death. They took in Aunt Fanny as an orphan. Oh, this is great. You know what? This person is a great contender for the book on remarkable American quilt makers, right? That I have to write, that Jill Alex had the idea for. Seriously, this is amazing, right? This is really something. She's an amazing person. There's so many amazing quilters, but like, who do you pick, you know? This is pretty good. Aunt Fanny continued to live for so long as she was able on the John Throckmorton homestead near Derby, which did not have electricity at the time. What? When daylight hours were at their peak during warm weather, the two women quilted there. We were just talking about this, right? Is it true that that women, we totally talked about this. Padma was asking, someone asked a very legitimate question, because I've always said, people think women quilt by firelight, or that they did, by candlelight or the fireplace, but that can't be true because you can't see anything. But we were talking about Susan McCord, and she made these amazing quilts and had 19 children and, milked the cows and stuff, right? And how did she ever get anything done unless she could work at night? So that was a very good question. But here we have some evidence, right? Some evidence that when daylight hours were at their peak during warm weather, Fanny and Jeanette would quilt. Yeah, there. Okay. And they shared their mutual passion for wildlife, especially birds. In the winter, Miss Christ moved to Des Moines. Okay, so was she Miss Christ? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, Christ. Yeah. Oh, no, that's Aunt Fanny. Okay, sorry. Miss Christ moved to Des Moines to live with Dr. Jeanette. Oh, and they continued to quilt together there. How cool is that? That's so cool. The quilts Dr. Jeanette is best known for are applique works to original designs featuring extensive trapunto and stuffed work. I think, I'll read you a little bit more about this quilt. Oh yeah, Molly. Molly, I haven't tapped into all your talents or your offers yet, but, I will. Hell yeah. Who wants in? God, yes. Oh, that would be really great. That would be great. If the quilt nerds could help research and just bring me all the stuff, then I can write it. Seriously, that would be really good. Oh my God, wait a minute. I know we have a lot of ideas on this show, and ideas are easy. It's the execution that's harder. But hear me out. If we pick the people, and then people who are interested takes one person to exhaustively research, I'm talking library, I'm talking we got to fact check all this stuff and do this. Listen, I'm serious now. It's too much for one person. Right? I'm doing this show, the Discord, I'm just oh God, what have I done? Because the Discord is hard to keep track of, but I think it's really valuable for us. I'm just not on there as much as I thought I would be, and I apologize for that. Anyway, but like I want to grow this thing, so that's a thing. Writing the book, it's like I can't do it all by myself. But if people were interested and want, obviously credit in the book for doing this, I mean, if everybody took one person, what would there be, like 12? Like we would do like 12? Because the thing is, it's scalable. There could be a volume 1 and a volume 2. I mean, there could be 1 million of these things. It's really cool. What do you think about that? If everybody took a person and we had like 12 and you just went like hardcore deep into this person and just brought me this, file of stuff, that would be amazing. And I could actually do something with that. I'm a decent writer. I've been writing a long time. I mean, I have every faith that I could take your research and do something great. Okay. I'm just saying, how do I get the people that are interested? I don't know yet. We'll figure it out, but I actually think that's something that is possible. Okay, I gotta get Marianne's in. Oof. See, I should be able to take like a picture of the chat to see. Actually, you know what, Susan? Would you mind just glancing through the chat, as long as you can still see jot down who's interested. Do you mind? And if you can't, that's totally fine. But just somebody jot down those names, and we'll pick it up from there. Sorry, I just got excited about there actually being a possibility of doing something like that. It's wonderful. It should really exist. Look at all the amazing people we read about. Oh, anyway, okay. There's no book like that. So back to this, just a little bit more about this. Because Dr. Jeanette gave so many quilts away, she lost track of exactly how many she had created, but guessed somewhere in the excess of 60. 4 of her works are part of the quilt collection at the Art Institute of Chicago, indeed, where I found this one. Goldfinches and Flowers, State Birds and Flowers, which is this one, Rose-Breasted Grosbeak, and Iris and Blue Iris. Fanny Christ died during 1962, and Dr. Jeanette during July of 1963. Both are buried in the Throckmorton Enclave in Woodland at the rear of the Derby Cemetery. Wow. I mean, that is cool. Wow. Huh. This is really neat. So, yeah. So thanks a lot, Frank D. Myers. Yeah, I want to know more. Huh. Listen to who this is. He has his little bio. 1, Southern Iowan. Who can measure the importance of place? ? 2, queer, cranky, and getting older. Oh my God, I love it. 3, Vietnam veteran. Are you serious? 4, certified skeptic. Secular humanist. This is the person who wrote what we just read, which was fabulous. I just want to say that in case you missed it. This is not, we're done with Throckmorton here. Frank D. Myers. Number 4, certified skeptic. Secular humanist with a Lutheran and Unitarian Universalist past and Episcopalian leanings. My life, as does everyone else's, involves living contradictions with as much grace as possible. Okay. Well, Frank D. Myers, I think I'm going to have to find you on the internet and tell you that you're awesome. And thank you for writing about this woman. And we may hear from us again. Okay. Very cool. And the state birds, and this guy's awesome. Okay. And then just a little bit about the quilt itself that I forgot to read from the Art Institute. I'll actually just bring it up because we've got a couple more of her quilts. So it was exhibited in 1965. Hang on. Maybe I'm getting better at just being patient with myself and not rushing, because when I rush, I lose, like a web page or something. It's just so embarrassing. Okay. This was exhibited at the Art Institute first in 1965, and along with 4 other quilts made by Dr. Janine Throckmorton. And they talk a little bit about her. She diligently applied herself to her needlework, meticulously working all of her quilts by hand. Even after setback, she suffered significant hearing loss. And it says, Frank mentioned this in his bio, but she graduated in 1907 from medical school, and this says she received the highest marks of the 140 doctors who took the medical board exam that year. So great. Faith, I see you. Somebody write this stuff down. I mean, we're here, so we obviously, let's just quickly look at the other quilts, right, that she has at the Art Institute. Eric brought me a coffee. I'm so glad. Why are you slow? I don't know. Okay. So also today, today is so fun. Look at these quilts. These are great. So these are all Dr. Jeanette's. Rose-breasted grosbeak and iris quilt. You know what? I don't like this. Here are the quilts. You can look at them at the Art Institute website. We've spent time on Dr. Jeanette. We should move on, and I don't like that the website's being slow, so we're going to move on, okay? So I was thinking about how I'm often in the 80s with you all, talking about art quilts, and maybe it's a phase. Maybe it's because I know the least about, it seems like I know the least about that genre of quilts in America and beyond. But I just love it. I think it's such an exciting time. So I'm often bringing you things that were made in the 80s. I mean, the Gutchins, right? Totally awesome. And all these different people. So, but I was like, there were a lot of traditional quilts made in the 80s as well. And sometimes, like this quilt today, is made in 1950. It's, a little bit older. You could say it's more traditional, but it's an art quilt too, maybe, there's no traditional blocks on this quilt. So the Art Institute owns it, but it's less, it doesn't have any curse words on it. Let's put it that way. And so I want to make sure I'm bringing the traditional vibe to the show because, this is, you have to be, if you're a nerd about quilts, you're a nerd about all of them. And that's true for me. So I was like, let's look at quilts in the 80s, okay? Specifically, gotta get small here. Help, I'm small. I'm gonna look at patterns. I've got, 20, 25, patterns to go through with you. Actually, I don't know. I've got the front of the pattern and then maybe some of the instructions on some of them. Because what I want to know is, styles change, fashions change. Literally fashion changes, obviously. Hemlines go up, they go down. People wear, I don't know, bell bottoms and then they wear skinny jeans, whatever, fashion, okay? And that's true for home decoration as well, avocado green, minimalism, blah, blah. It all changes. And so quilts kind of have there is a bit of fashion and home dec in quilts, right? Certainly quilts go into fashion and they go into the homes and stuff. So, and they're textiles, and textiles change so much. So, I'm just fascinated by that and all its applications, right? How culture changes and art changes and fashion changes. And yes, Holmes, indeed. Kelly, real quick. Kelly had a question. Did you say that was a state bird quilt or an Audubon print quilt? It was a state bird, Kelly, state bird and state flower. So Throckmorton put the state bird on the state flower in that embroidery. She very well might have looked at Audubon's books. Probably did. Anybody who does birds is probably going to reference that, right? She seems like she would probably have known it, right? Oh yeah, rotary cutter, fascinating. So let me just say, Shasta, by the way, Shasta is interested in this book, in the research assistantry. And Sohani is over in YouTube land. Sorry, I realized I hadn't said hi to those folks. Sohani B says, I discovered you on YouTube. Thanks for sharing your research. I find it very, very valuable. I collect books on handcraft and have spent some time studying Indian techniques. That's cool. Reflective of my heritage. Love that. Talk about kantha quilts. Every once in a while, kantha quilts come up. you should watch my video on quilts and fashion, because I'm seeing kantha quilts being cut up for clothes too. So it's happening all over with all kinds of different textiles. Oh yeah. Oh, God. So Hani continues, regarding your comments on kantha quilts refashioned to clothes. Kantha quilts are made from recycled saris that have been damaged. To upcycle kantha quilts is full circle. Interesting. Very interesting point. That is a very interesting point. I did not know that. You know what? This is why the show exists. And forgive me for commenting on comments before I read all the comments, but I can't. It's so hard to know. It's all live. So honey, it's really interesting. And I'm going to take a screenshot so I can remember that and have that. Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. This is great. So, so this is this quilt from the 80s, okay? It's quilt pattern, heart to heart. Now, even the shape of that heart is different than it would be now, right? It's just a very 80s style heart. Am I right? You know, and if it's an 80s style heart, then that means it's copied from something else, you know? It might be a Victorian kind of shaped heart, you know, I don't know. But it just looks different. And why? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a very, you know, really broad question. Why does the world change? You know, why do these, but I'm curious about why quilts look different from that now. And certainly the patterns look different. And people are talking about rotary cutters. Susan R. Michael says, I'm left-handed. I don't know where I'd be. I don't think I would be quilting without the rotary cutter. And yeah, and Kelly points out the country blue and mauve color palette from the 80s. Totally. Sue, hey, Feed Puppy. Hi, Feed Puppy. Oh, yeah, the negative space stars. Yeah, in between the hearts. It's true. And these are mostly solid fabrics, which is interesting. So people are talking about rotary cutters. And if you don't know what those are, you know, if you're not a quilter, most people who are watching this are quilters. Hey, just having fun. Just Having Fun says, my first quilt was a quilt in a day log cabin. A rotary cutter is a tool that did happen in the 1980s, okay? It was, as far as I know, the first rotary cutter was the Olfa cutter, the Olfa rotary cutter. It's a razor blade on a wheel, basically. I have one over there, but I'm not going to leave to get it. We got to do a whole thing on rotary cutters. I have to put this down. So I won't say everything about them now, and I don't know everything about them now. But as far as I know, it was a Japanese, Olfa is a Japanese company? Or I heard the Japanese architects, right, used a tool similar to this. And somehow this got, you know, this cross-pollination, okay? And quilters started using this razor blade on a wheel to cut their fabric. Because, as we'll see, before the rotary cutter, the only way to cut your pieces was by hand. You would make templates and cut out your pieces with scissors. And that still works. And you can't cut every piece with a rotary cutter. But the rotary cutter it's like a system. It works with a mat, because it's a razor blade, so you have to put something safe underneath. And then you have these rulers, and they're very thick plexiglass rulers that you cut against. And there's a million rulers, and you can probably cut any shape you want, curves and all that stuff out of these with these rotary cutters. And one of the things that happened is that, so here's the instructions for this Amish doll quilt, okay? Here's the instructions. And I have questions for you about the instructions. So quilts you can make quilts a lot faster. I mean, the speed at which you could make a quilt with a rotary cutter, I mean, it was just astronomically faster than what you used to be able to do. Because with a template, and I was using a template in London, I was working on this thing, where I drew around a template, and I mean, it takes kind of forever. You have to draw around the template as many times as you need that shape, and then cut it out with scissors. And I mean, with a rotary cutter, you cut strips a lot of times, and then, you know, if you need a hexagon, you cut a strip, and then you use the ruler, and you can go around it so quickly and cut a bunch of them at once. You can stack, like, I don't know, how many do you all stack? How many pieces of fabric do you all stack? I can't remember. I think 4 is as much as I go, because if you stack too many and try to hack through too many, you can really, like, cock up your fabric. But it depends on how sharp your blade is and whatever. So Cindy Mounts in YouTube land says they were originally made for dressmaking to do curves like shoulders. Interesting. See, that's why I got rotary cutters written down to look at later, because I should be careful of what I say because I don't totally know. Marianne points out, when was the pizza cutter invented? It's a good question. It's a good question. They're similar things. Yeah, a rotary cutter looks like a pizza cutter. It's a good way to say it. Susan says that the heart pattern that we looked at, sorry, this is really interesting. The heart pattern, Roxy Bougard, that's who designed this, transformed her passion into a business and opened one of the state's first quilt shops, Threadbare Studio. Really? In Salem, Mass? That's cool. Interesting. Okay, great. Toll painting. My mom was all about that, Molly says. Our house was full of craft. Okay. So, yes. I mean, there was this country style, and, it was a whole thing. So instructions looked like this, those pattern pieces, you needed them, right? So it was more like, well, this is a doll. Part of this is doll stuff. But, no, that's not a doll. Wait. Yeah, they obviously have, Amish doll and quilt. Okay, right. So these are pattern pieces for the doll, but then you have the instructions for the quilt up here. I mean, those are typed on a typewriter, those instructions, right? And then photocopied, mimeographed, right? It's just interesting. They look different now. Quilts look different, and instructions definitely look different. Sorry, this picture is a little bit blurry. And Myra says she doesn't cut more than 2 layers of fabric at a time with her rotary cutter because she's a newbie and a klutz, and the rotary cutter is sharp. It is very sharp. It's true. It ought to be, Robin's Nest says, with a new blade, I do 4, but I'm using the 45 millimeter size. If I were using a larger size, I'd cut more. Right. So the 60 millimeter blade, it's really nice, isn't it? That big blade. It really feels powerful. But I usually use a 45 millimeter too. And then what is it? Is it 24? What's the next size down? 22? 20. I don't know. I should bring my sewing basket over here. Sue uses cutting machines. You mean like die cut machines? Interesting. We should talk about those too. Die cutters. See okay. So that's a point about rotary cutters. Rotary cutters, they weren't crazy expensive. I mean, I don't know how much they cost. Yeah, this is where I should not talk. But I mean, like, they were tools. It wasn't like a new computer or something. So, you could manage to get yourself a rotary cutting mat and at least one of these rulers and a rotary cutter. And so I think, and Yvonne, I might have mentioned this before, Teacher Stitch does 4 layers. Okay, cool. And it's a 28-inch smaller rotary cutter. So I think, Yvonne, that the long arm quilting machine is a direct result of the rotary cutter. I think of the rotary cutter as like a little mouse, and the long arm machine as an elephant, and it's like the elephant and the mouse, because quilt tops were being made so quickly now after that rotary cutter thing got around, that people were making tops like crazy, and they didn't get them they couldn't get them quilted in time, I mean, they just were having so much fun, and it was so fast to make a new top that it was more and more appealing to have someone quilt the quilt. This is just a theory. I'm just talking here. But also, I think the whole industry, the quilt industry, which is valued at like $3.5 to $4 billion a year, somewhere around there, and there's 18 million quilters, give or take, a million or so in America. The rotary cutter made things easier and faster, and now I'm doing the rotary cutting show and I have to stop. But quilts like this may have been made using a rotary cutter. May not. I don't know. Probably. This was published, by the way, by Yours Truly for McCall's. Yours Truly. We need to talk about Yours Truly. It was a publishing company. I believe my mom's first book was published by Yours Truly. Here's the instructions. So this is a question I have for you. I've got all these ideas now. We haven't talked about Sunbonnet Sue. Just Having Fun says that she hates Sunbonnet Sue and that ilk. Too cutesy. Oh yeah. Well, then you'll love a quilt called The Death of Sunbonnet Sue. Yeah. Barbara Brackman was involved. I forget everybody who was involved, but they did a quilt where in every block, Sue was killed or died some grisly death, like struck by lightning, murdered. It's hilarious and amazing and famous. We'll talk about that. So what are these directions? Do they look like today's directions? I mean, instructions don't really change, do they? Yeah. Belle, are you talking about the Sunbonnet Sue thing? It's true. It exists. So, yeah, the rise of pre-cuts. Yes, it's true, Marianne. Oh my God, pre-cuts. Wow, this is like a major content production show. Yeah, it's crazy. The Sunbonnet Sue quilt. So, I mean, instructions don't really go out of style. It is what it is, right? For the girls' dresses and hat bands, you need 1/4 of a yard and so forth. But I don't know. Liza Lucy, who's a K Facet, part of the K Facet world, she told me, she said once to me, she's like, there's no nomenclature for quilt patterns. Like, there's no standard, like half square triangles, let me put it this way, half square triangles, you can find a million different directions for how to make one, And I suppose, like, there's no standard recipe for chocolate chip cookies. There's a million chocolate chip cookie recipes. But I thought it was interesting because she said knitting, like knit 1, purl 2. This was how she was getting. She's a knitter, and I don't know much about that. But I thought it was really interesting. There's no like standard, nomenclature for quilt patterns, and because there isn't, instructions can be very different, and some of them are written really well, and some of them are written pretty badly. It seems. And if you've ever had a quilt pattern with a mistake in it, just be cool, man. Be cool. I mean, typos, they happen, and you can look at something a zillion times and it still happens, and it's not cool. And if you have more than one pattern by somebody and there's typos in it, it's like, okay, maybe I won't get another, pattern from that designer. But if it happens, I don't know. And a lot of times, as my mom has said, it's user error sometimes. But we've seen it. We published an error in a quilt folk pattern once. It's humiliating. It's terrible. So yeah, anyway, but instructions. That's basically that. So polka dots, paisleys, and plaids. Yeah. Vogue's patterns. I feel like that's confusing. I feel like it's a little close to Vogue, right? I found a lot of quilts with rainbows in them, or rainbow-like things. This could not be more 1980s. I mean, it's like every Never Ending Story, or Land Before Time, or something like that, or The Dragon and the Unicorn. It's pretty cool. Sir Damon. I feel like I see the kid that this was made for. I mean, I think it would be made for a kid. I'm not sure. And he's definitely playing Atari, and he's definitely into adventure books, and he's basically my older sister Hannah at that time, at that age. Yeah. Oh, that's very sweet. Cindy Moore says, I like instructions that are visual. Yeah, diagrams are good. I need them too. So this is Dragon Quilt, designed by Audrey Rye, exclusively for Better Homes and Gardens clubs. Interesting. Locust Street, Des Moines. Yeah, Better Homes and Gardens is published by Meredith Corporation, and Meredith Corporation is located in Des Moines, Iowa, not far from where I grew up, and the town where Love of Quilting television show was filmed and is still filmed. D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, totally. I mean, I think this quilt, frankly, there's the pattern. So you see those letters are for you to trace around and then cut out. And I think, that's probably still the way to do it. I mean, die cutters, you may have, who was saying, was it Sue? I think Sue said die cutters, maybe. Apologize if I got this wrong. Yeah. Sue uses the cutting machines, and there's probably lots of different dies for the alphabet, but that's a lot of dies to have, right? The die cutting thing. Anyway, I just want to say, by the way, that this dragon quilt, this Sir Damon, because they give you obviously the whole alphabet so you can properly make Sir or Lady Mary, for the D&D player in your life. I mean, it still works. The corner pieces are a little incongruous. I would do blocks. I would do like, relevant blocks, like, I don't know, what would be relevant? Storm at Sea, Bear's Claw, Bear's Paw. A bear claw is a donut. Anyway, okay, so there's that one. See, more rainbows. Now, I love this. I love this so much. Rockabye rainbow. Fun, fast, fun applique and crib toy pattern. Isn't that great? It's great. It's pictorial, obviously. I like it. It's puffy. It's a puffy quilt. The puffy quilt, man. Bring it back. Bring it back. I love a heavily quilted quilt on the wall. I'm sorry, it's just my preference. There's nothing good or bad about any of these quilts that we make. I love, all of them, right? But when you quilt a quilt super, 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 like, and I'm talking tiny, tiny stippling, it's a different animal, right, than a quilt for a baby, obviously, right? You wouldn't super, super heavily long-armed a baby quilt, and I know everybody knows that. That's not like a revelation, but I there's just something about the puffy, like, polyester bat quilts that I just really like. I mean, the texture on this is crazy. Look how puffy it is down by the duck and the rabbit and the squirrel. They're very, very cute. Inflin over in YouTube says, I started quilting so long ago, there weren't patterns. Whoa! We'd find a pattern, draft the angles and the pattern, and make cardboard templates. Calculate the yardage and make it. I would not probably be making quilts if I had to do that. I'm serious. I don't mean to play dumb, but like I'm very bad at that part. I'll write you a whole thing about the quilt that you make. It'll be great, but I can't. Drafting and stuff is tough. Who else, nerds? Do you draft things? If you see a quilt that you really like, at a show or something, do you like take a picture, and say, okay, I want to make that block, or I really love that border, and then do you draft it? Marianne, I feel like you do. I feel like you're a drafter. I'm a draft dodger. Hey, M. Sue John, I'm so glad you're here. That's awesome. Yes, Susan, I completely agree. So this is the instructions for this one. All the patterns I found, by the way, most of them are on Etsy or for sale on the internet. So if you really love this, you can get it. I love at the very end. Your Rockabye rainbow quilt is completed. It is finished. So wow, no, oh my, no, wait a minute. Where's all your? Oh, here. This is your pattern stuff. You know what? Who said you needed visuals, Cindy? Yeah, you're not getting them here. How is that possible? Wait a minute. This is it? No, here. You've got some. When you buy the pattern, you get templates and stuff, of course. Okay, cool. So yeah, I love it. See, look, another one. Susan, you were talking about this basically. Hey, Anna Maria from Buenos Aires. Hello, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is great. $3. That's a difference, right? Sorry, just want to look at the puff for a minute. How much? I don't buy patterns right now. I should plug my dear friend Heather's amazing website, Pattern Mart, quiltpatternmart.com. You should go there. She's one of my best friends in the whole wide world, and that's her online shop. She has all the patterns. It's great. Quiltpatternmart.com. And I should have Heather sponsor this show, and all that I get is like a coffee when we hang out. It's like that's the sponsorship. She has to buy coffee. How much are patterns right now? Like, I know it varies, but do you download all your patterns now? Like, what do you do? Okay, here. This is when doing a poll will be really fun, when I get polls together, like online on-screen polls. But for now, put a 1 in the chat if you download the majority of the patterns that you buy. Put a 1 in the chat if you download the majority of patterns that you buy. In contrast to actually purchasing a pattern that you would get in the mail and paper. So put a 1 in the chat if you download most of your patterns rather than buy the paper version. Hey, Brendan. Thank you for subscribing for 3 months. We appreciate you. This is great. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's see. Yeah, wow. A lot of ones. Here, this is what I should do. Put a 2 in the chat now. So put a 1 in the chat if you download, and put a 2 in the chat if you buy the paper. That's how I should really do this, because we can see the difference. We can see how many 1s and how many 2s at the same time. Yeah, that would work. So yeah, a 1 if you download, a 2 if you buy the actual thing. And I know that, if you're at a quilt shop, you're gonna, and you want a pattern, it's there, so you're gonna probably buy the paper version. I understand that. But right now, what do you do? Hybrid. Fiandor goes for the paper. Interesting. Mostly 1s though. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. Padma, thank you. It's shop.quiltpatternmart.com. Shop.quiltpatternmart.com. Thank you for putting the link in the chat. I gotta tell Heather that she's the new sponsor of Quilt Nerd. Brendan says, hey Brendan, the only time I get paper is if it's a paper pieced pattern. Oh yeah, or the maker doesn't offer it in digital. Okay. And Dee Dee Brew Crew, she's a 2. She goes for paper. I don't know. I like paper. Oh yeah. Okay. Marianne and Faith both have the point to make that that they buy books, right? They have books, and that there are patterns in the books. Of course, this is a good point. PDF. The first quilt Myra ever made was improv. There was no pattern. Padma is a 2 for books. Faith purchased books. Yep, booklets. Okay, cool. Interesting. Kathy and Anne and Anna Maria are all downloaders. Interesting. Cool. This is just interesting. Easy big blocks for piecing a complete quilt by machine or hand. Interesting. You get a quilt done pretty fast if you do big blocks, right? I mean, depending on how hard the block is. Okay. Newsprint. This is all newsprint. Do you get any quilt patterns in newsprint anymore? Probably not. These, there's a bunch. But see, this is what I mean about the style. Oh yeah, and what about these? There were so many of these kinds of things. The quilts and hoops. Should this come back? I wanted, this show is I wanted to start to be a trend-setting show. I want people to do pictorial quilts from here on out for at least 10 years. I want people to use polyester batting, unless our beloved long armors would kill us for saying so, because that might be a problem. I don't know. I have so many questions this show. Long armors, is poly, really puffy poly batting, is that just a very bad idea for long arming? If so, only so much. We need and love our long armors. Okay, but then this hoop thing, it's this country style, right? It's a very country style home decor, but it's also kind of cool. People make enough mini quilts in this world. Change it up. Do a quilt in a hoop. It's already in the hoop. You just get it sandwiched together. I like it. Okay, cool. M. Sue John says, I'm a new long armor and I just did polyester batting. It wasn't bad. Okay, cool. That's good. Oh yeah, and Nancy says Simplicity patterns run about $17 now. Yeah, I forgot I asked that question about how much they cost, because I got into the other thing. Interesting. Word and Bird Nerd, I see you. Yeah, subscription boxes. That is a very good thing to look at. I don't know anything about that. Subscription boxes. Excellent. Yeah, major content. Because you get patterns in boxes sometimes. Interesting. Kansas City Star did do quilt patterns regularly, and so did the Chicago Tribune, Marianne. Nancy Cabot. It's crazy. And I think it was syndicated, so there were quilt patterns in newspapers all the time. Embroidery in the hoop, Susan, totally. Molly says she would do a quilt block in a hoop. A quilt block in a hoop. I love that. I think that's great. I got to write down quilts and hoops. Hoop quilts. Quilts and hoops. Look at this. Look at this. That's my notes section. Look. All of it. Because this is every time. Every time. Quilt Nerd content plan. Okay. We may not get to the third thing that I had prepared for you today. I don't think we will because I have a business call at 1 o'clock my time. We have plenty of time. Don't worry. But these are all interesting patterns from the 80s, I believe. I realized that some of the patterns that I got might have dipped into the 90s, but that's a whole other thing. So I have a folder for 90s quilts because they changed. They did change because then there was more and more and more fabric all the time. And that really changed the look of quilts too. Yep. Sticker shock for Nancy. Absolutely. Absolutely. Colonial Quilted Patterns by Graphique Needle Arts. Look at those pillows. Lots of lace, lots of doilies. Country and ruffles. Laura Ashley, right? This was interesting. This is the picture of the quilt. I don't think I have the picture of the pattern. I looked at that when I was putting the slideshow or whatever together. But I have a couple different images of this quilt. This is an Amish, it's an Amish, diamond quilt pattern. And this is definitely made in the 80s. And this fabric, it reminds me, I have a quilt made by my mom and she did the feather quilting and it's the same fabric. I swear, it's this solid black, but it's very thin. It's not, and it's torn a little bit. It's just really kind of thin fabric. And that's another difference is not all fabric and not everyone could afford the new fabric, but during the quilt revival, like the 80s and into the 90s, and then from then on, it's just been the same, that there's this really nice quilter's cotton, it's broadcloth, and it's really, the more you pay, the better the fabric gets. It's sturdy and has high thread count. I don't know is that true? I only know that in relation to sheets, but you can get less expensive fabric and it feels different, right? It feels different. But the less expensive fabric still works, so don't worry about it. Look at those little tiny stitches in this quilt. Those are really tiny. I can't do that. Come on. It's going to take me a very, very long time and a lot of hand quilting to get stitches that small. Oh my God. That's really small. That's like, how many stitches per inch is that? Isn't that a question we always have to ask? Like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. Too many. Okay. Hey, Dee Marie. Dee Marie is here. I'm so glad you're here. And she said, arrived in time to mention that everyone around here seems to prefer Hobbs 80-20, right? Polyester and cotton batting for long arming. I know several who use it exclusively. I like it, or 100% cotton. Interesting. Yeah, 80-20. That's what I usually hear too, and what I've had probably in the past. Or wool. I like wool batting. Kelly Naher says $30 for a Vogue designer pattern. Wow. And obviously garment, right? You're talking garment. Yeah, that's amazing. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Boy, I'm feeling this inflation thing right now. Food is so expensive. It seems like everything's, that's crazy. Anyway, a couple patchwork bears. Who makes bears right now? Does anybody make bears? Modern quilters. I'm just saying, we still need bears. Kids need bears. Make modern quilt soft things. Why not? A modern quilt bear, could look totally cool. And you don't have to cut up a vintage quilt to make it. You could make your own. Well, you couldn't cut up a vintage quilt to make a sweet little bear for a wee one in your life. You couldn't, if you wanted to make it modern style, of course you couldn't cut up a vintage quilt. But think about some of your favorite modern quilters, and how cool their quilts are. Well, make a little thing. Yes. Wool and cotton batting together gives a lot of texture. It's so true. So yeah, I'm just saying, hoop quilts and bears, the patterns are there. The style is up to you, right? So a bear is timeless. That bear, not timeless. Although I love it. Great American Quilt Factory. Amazing. Oh yeah, and so I think this is the last one here, and then I got to show you this other stuff. Oh, sorry. I mean, 1986. 1986 has come for us, and it is wearing a country patchwork jumper, and I am here for it. My mom, we've seen quilt clothes on this show before. We've seen them. And they're kind of great. My mom made vests. She and Liz Porter had a whole book on quilted patchwork vests. And, oh, nice. Okay, that's great. So you guys are already making toys. I love it. Oh, and a member of the London Modern Quilt Guild makes great bears. Oh, and okay, she's got their Instagram, Marianne Tea Cakes. Look at her chat because she has Ziffer Sky's Instagram handle, and she's making bears. I love it. I will check it out too. Wait, I have to write that down. Ziffer Skies. Okay. Yeah, so this is quilt fashion, man. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's typed. That is a typed and photocopied set of instructions. It's just changed so much. Desktop publishing. I mean, she didn't use it really. Maybe she used a computer to type it. Looks like a typewriter to me. And then look, she hand drew her logo, or somebody did. And then this, someone took like a calligraphy class or, some kind of whatever, artist. I don't have any idea, but I mean, it's very artful, and it's very old school, this whole thing. And I love it. I think it's great. Okay, so those are some 1980s patterns. Very much enjoyed that discussion. Thank you so much. Yeah. Which one did I like the best? I think I liked this one the best. The dragon quilt. It's just so never-ending story. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So we're going to go right into the next thing because here's our wonderful state bird quilt. Okay. Going to go into the next thing because we have to. So I'm thinking that I know one of the perks for the tier 2 and or maybe the tier 3 membership that I've got to get together, at some point. I have found. Somebody subscribed, or Marianne has a spelling mistake in the Instagram handle for the Modern Quilter. It's Zephyr Skies. Okay, so make sure you get Zephyr like Zephyr and then Skies. Okay. I found a source. That's all I'm going to say. I found a source for vintage postcards. Now, wait, before you go skittering over to some website, start buying them yourself in case you want them. I think I've already purchased some of these. Even the ones that you'll see today, many of them. Because I think it would be super fun if you're a subscriber at, the $9.99 level or something. I'll send you a vintage postcard with a special message for you. I mean, it's fun, right? I'm not saying like, it's mail for me. But I mean, it's just fun, Like I'll write you a personalized note on some awesome vintage postcard. And I mean, I think it'd be fun. Just a little memento, I don't know. It's hard to think of perks that feel like valuable. I mean, added value, but also fun and personal. I don't know. So let's look at some of these. They're amazing. And so we're just going to look at some postcards. And some of the postcards are blank, and some of them have messages on them, but only a couple of them that I found have messages on them. And so, but the ones that do are, when you find vintage postcards at a flea market or whatever, and they have, writing on them, it's fascinating because it's like, wow, that was someone's life and they sent this postcard and they had something to say, So, this one, I put the postcard and then the back of the postcard in here so we can see what the heck we're looking at. So you see this? Silver Dollar City, Missouri is the fascinating 1880 Ozark village near Springfield in Branson, Missouri, which serves as a historic setting of the National Festival of Craftsmen. Over 50 rare skills of hand craftsmanship are presented annually the first Saturday in October for 16 days. So this was like a quilt demonstration, probably a sale too. Do I have a year on this? No. I don't know, the 60s, maybe? I got a lot of these. Look at this, Quilt Room. It's a postcard. Sold by Southern Oregon Historical Society. Quilt Room. Sold by? Is that the postcard or the quilts? I don't know. If the Historical Society is selling quilts, I don't know. That's kind of weird. You see the coverlets in here? These overshot coverlets we talked about them the other day, also being cut up into clothes these days, but those overshot coverlets are often exhibited with quilts, you know? Mm-hmm. You like the postcard idea? You think that would be fun? Silver Dollar City, M. Sujan, you might have visited during that quilt show. It sounds like it's something that happens all the time, every year. So maybe you did. Interesting. Maybe I should earmark that postcard for you. Okay, 1950s Oregon. Okay, that's what this is. 1950s. 1950s. Okay. Oh, where's my alert box? Why aren't you showing? Oh, maybe it's because you're there. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. Okay, oh, isn't this wonderful? Look at this. Isn't that great? This is beautiful. I mean, I'm not sure about the piece on top, which is a traditional Middle Eastern, I think, sort of Middle Eastern technique with the sort of the mirrors of the shiny bits there. I don't know. I don't think it totally works, these two things together. But, oh my God, this postcard's amazing. Look what it says. Okay. Wearable Art by A. Devora. Canyon Road, New Mexico. Quilts Limited. All of these things are investigatable, you know? It's like, who was this person? What was she doing? What was she making? You know? Okay, good. People like this idea. All right. I mean, it's a little bleak, but these postcards aren't necessarily all like great, but they're all quilting related. And they're just fun. They're just fun to look at. That stocking hanging on the wall, maybe it's a prosthetic limb. I don't think it's working for the photo, but it's amazing, right? It's amazing. And she's got her quilting pattern. See, so when you're quilting your quilt, for those people who don't know, you have a quilting pattern, and this would be the kind that you would draw. You place it on your quilt and draw, or pounce with little pouncing chalk, perhaps. That's a very old school setup. So what is this? Okay, not all of them have backs on them. Like, I don't know where that comes from. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of sad. This is a stereotype of what quilting is, what everybody looks like, who quilts, what everybody does. We don't use these sewing machines that much anymore. Some people do, because you know what? They still work, which is pretty awesome. Some people do like quilting on a featherweight, or sewing on a featherweight machine, but sewing machines these days have lasers in them and computers, so we've come a long way. Look at this quilt. You know I'm here for this one. Excuse me. It's a sock blocker for knitting. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that, Nana Maker, because I don't know about that stuff. Sorry. I'm a little bit coughy, and it's just, I'm fine. It's like post-nasal drip, sorry, but I've been coughing a little bit today. I'm okay. This one is the American Museum in Britain. Claverton Manor in Bath. A bicentennial friendship quilt made in 1976 by the staff of the American Museum in Britain. Marianne, you know, it's earmarked for you. American Friends. A quilt is where each block contains a different pattern, is known as a friendship medley quilt. Look at that. Oh, look at that. The U.S. mail. That is so sweet. And this lion down here. And look, an end table. Interesting. I really, really like this. This is really cool. So that's so neat. And what year is it from? It's from, it doesn't say. Sorry, it was made in 1976, but I don't know when this was printed. Maybe in 1976. Look at this one. Beautiful. Luscious. Let me, the write down. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so there's no back on that one. That was available for me to scan or show you. But it's gorgeous. I mean, I would love to get that in the mail, you know? I'm going through these fairly quickly because there's a lot of them. I mean, who knows if we'll even get through all of them, but I think it's pretty fun. Oh, no, this is the back. This is the postcard front, and this is the back. Not a lot of room for writing a message, but maybe that's the point. It's a promotional thing. American Quilts, Pearl Road, Cleveland, Ohio, In 1987, copyrighted 1987 by the artist down there, American Quilt Company. Interesting. American Quilt Company. Love it. It's beautiful. It's fabulous. This is terrifying. I know. I'm not saying that this cultural, particular kind of dress is terrifying, but it's just the way she's bending. This is either Amish or Mennonite. To me, this looks like a, Amish or Mennonite clothing. And so I assume this is maybe a historical society or some kind of museum, campus or something, maybe a demonstration of some kind, I don't know. But it's the peaked cap and the way she's bending over and the all black that I saw it and I was like, ugh! That's all. But it's still a great postcard. It's a very, very good postcard. Oh yeah, okay. Arcola, Illinois. A bedroom similar to those found in Amish homes. The Amish women are noted for their beautiful quilts, one being displayed here. By a ghost. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, great. I'd love to get that postcard in the mail. I would. And maybe you subscribe at tier 2. Yeah, I'm going to say that. If you subscribe at tier 2, I'm going to send you one of these postcards with a personal message. There's going to be more to the tier 2 subscription for $9.99 a month. I don't know what it is yet, but I can guarantee that this will be one of the perks. I think it's fun. This right here, we're going to talk about this again. I'm skipping that because it's amazing, it's fascinating, and I've already got a file for it. Just forget you saw it. We'll talk about it later. Sunbonnet Sue. I know who's going to get this. Who's going to get this? Sunbonnet Sue. Whose favorite? Just having fun. Maybe this will be yours. Sunbonnet Susie. I know. I'm not a huge fan either. This is cool. This is very old. Look at this. This is from 1908, and it has a message on the back. God and the doctor we alike adore, just on the brink of danger, not before. The danger past, both alike are requited. God is forgot, and the doctor is slighted. Ugh. Okay. Holmes, I know that deer quilt is amazing. There's a lot going on here in this postcard. Obviously, I selected it because this wee kid is laying under a patchwork quilt, so it's completely relevant. Now let's see what it says on the back. God and the doctor we alike adore, just on the brink of danger, not before. The danger past, both alike are requited. God has forgotten, the doctor slighted. Okay, so we really need God and the doctor. This is like a foxhole thing. When you're sick, you're like, oh, God help me, and doctor, I need you. And then when you're not sick, you're like, meh. You don't think about him, I guess. I think that's the message. Okay, what did it say? Oh, it's maybe in Swedish. It seems like, but they sent it to Chicago, 129 Powell Avenue, Chicago. Powell. I think I know where that is. I think that's downtown-ish. I think it's 1908. How about that? And if you get this postcard, then you'll I'll give you this, but then give you another message. Okay. Upper Canada Village, Morrisburg, Ontario, Canada, doing a demonstration, obviously, in some kind of, room. Kind of cool. In the Canadian Village. It's kind of awesome. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit more quickly. Oh, can't see that. That's that deer thing. We're going to come back to that. This is sweet. A Merry Christmas quilt postcard. We're looking at vintage postcards. If you just joined us, vintage postcards from my stash. And this one has a message. Merry holidays. Hoping all went well and Joe is well on the way to full recovery. Best in 1990. Awesome. Love it. This is cool. I really like this postcard a lot. This seems like the black and white, like old school. And I think, does this have, built by Reverend James Kemper in 1804. Log cabin. Oh, this is about the cabin, not the quilt, but that's okay. This quilt is located, I could say at least, in the oldest house standing within the Miami Purchase. Interesting. Well, there's two quilts in that thing. It's very quilt focused. I feel like they should talk about the quilt more, but this is in Zoo Gardens, Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, this is very, very appropriate for the puffy quilt child moment that we had earlier. And Holmes, I noticed that too. That Merry Christmas, Get Well Soon quilt was like totally made me think of COVID. And you could send that postcard now, right? Coloring a Child's World by Cindy Taylor Clark. And I don't have a year on it, but 80s probably, right? Okay, what else have we got? Oh, this is turned. Hang on. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so there was a bunch of these. There's a bunch of these commemorative quilts and like bicentennial quilts that are state specific. So if you subscribe at tier 2 and you're from Michigan, I'll try to give you this one, you know? Michigan quilt. This unique creation shows all of Michigan counties. It was designed and pieced, placed, and quilted by Marion Welsh to commemorate 1987 Michigan Sesquicentennial. It's on display at the Michigan Forest Visitor Center in Grayling, Michigan. Happy Mother's Day. I certainly enjoy your letters. Love, Vivian. Love it. This is nice. I feel like this is a pretty nice style shot. Actually, the quilt drape is very nice. Cook Forest Sawmill Center for the Arts, Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources. Oh, yeah. Marianne notes that she knows people who make quilted postcards to send. One makers are really charming, and I think they do go through the mail. I think you're right. I've seen that project somewhere. Quilted postcards. I like it. Okay. This, as soon as I saw this, I knew what it was. This is at the Calvin Coolidge Homestead in Vermont. Calvin Coolidge made that quilt on the bed. He did. We did a story on Calvin Coolidge and his quilts, plural. I know he made that one at least. We did a story on it in Quilt Folk, and we have wonderful pictures of his quilt, and I can talk about that at some point, but that's Calvin Coolidge's quilt. He made it himself. In Plymouth, Vermont. He was pretty cool. So Calvin Coolidge. Look, oh my God, look at those hearts. We saw those hearts earlier today. You see, this happens all the time with the show. This happens all the time. We come back. Things are they're gifts, you know? When you're doing what you should be doing, the universe conspires to help you out. And it's true. It happens all the time on this show. Those hearts have made an appearance again. And if that is an antique, that's what I'm saying. If that's an antique piece, which, I don't know, by the looks of this part, that's pretty close. That's not a great resolution on that. But doesn't that look sort of old? That middle piece looks kind of old, and the whole thing, it could be fake country old. It might be, but where is this thing? Did we have information? No, the Kemmerer Museum. A velvet crazy quilt is part of a fine collection of quilts and coverlets on display in the Pennsylvania Room, which houses painted furniture and fractures. Fracture, feed puppy, right there. You said it first. You knew it. So that is old school. So those 1980s hearts, fracture influenced. There it is. Molly, hi. Different Molly in YouTube. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Brendan. Brendan just gifted a tier 1 sub to Sibby Mac. Hey, Sibby Mac. Thanks, Brendan. It's awesome. Okay, so what else we got? Okay, quilt postcard. Awesome. Love it. A little fracture-ish. This one, too. What does it say? Handcrafted quilt. Double-headed distal fink. Okay. All right. Or lovebirds. Distal fink sounds like German, right? Fraktur is German. Is that right? Is Fraktur or Pennsylvania Dutch? What is? Some people will definitely know about Fraktur without a doubt. This is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This quilt postcard. Love that. This is weird, and I like it a lot. And yeah, this is a special quilt. What is it? It's a really faded. I wish the color was better, but this says Season's Greeting. So it's a Christmassy thing. American Quilts Company, this keeps coming up. Pearl Road, right? Remember that wonderful illustration we saw on the back of the red quilt? That said American Quilts Company. I have to write it down. I have to investigate it. We should all see what it is. Dove Quilt, designed by K.P. Wogelmuth. American Quilts Company. American Quilts Company. I say all the time, the show will never really be over because there's so much to look at. It's a patchworky, at least. Yeah, patchworky. Dear Aunt Oral, yesterday at our Hang Loose Garden Club. What? Great. I gave away 10 of my African violets. I still have 28 plants left. We're going on a trip to Canada. When we get back, I'll send you a picture of them. Love, Sis. That's so nice. Oh, and it's flower themed. That's great. Maybe there should be a show that's just looking at old vintage postcards, you know? I think that'd be great. Quilting bees have been going on throughout rural America since frontier days, and there's always such a gathering and progress during the National Festival of Craftsmen at Silver Dollar City. This is another one from that first postcard that we looked at. And Brendan and Ivana both have the same question about how you upgrade to a level 2 subscription. I give you my word that on the next show, tomorrow night, the New Year's Eve show, it's kind of cool, I will have information for you on that because Ivana asked me earlier, upgrading to tier 2. I will find out. Okay, I should know that, but yeah. So the National Festival of Craftsmen. Woo, sorry. Yep, we know about that one. Okay, this is, 1980s. This is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm gonna zip here. Amish. This is great. This is a great postcard, dated, but well put together. I think it's a farm, Amish country, Lancaster County. It could be yours. Yeah. I don't have. Do I have a year? Yeah. No year. Printed in Ireland though. That's interesting. Look, here's another one of these state quilts, and this is the Bicentennial. I believe the Bicentennial Quilt for Indiana. And what does it say? The Hoosier Heritage Quilt, a collaboration between Indiana Department of Natural Resources and the Purdue University Extension Service, features quilt blocks made by winners from each Indiana county, pieced together in a stained glass style. The official state quilt is a tribute to Hoosier pride and to the participants. That's, you know what? That's impressive. That is impressive because, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of work and a lot of really good craftsmanship. Getting all that stuff together, oof. That's pretty awesome. I like that. Good job. Okay. You know what this is? Does anybody know what this is? Hey, Feed Puppy. Thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Padma. Maybe for spring you could do a all floral or flower quilt show. I love it. Floral and flower for spring. That's awesome. That's a great idea. Spring. It's perfect. Oh yeah, okay. And if you're already signed up for a subscription through for the next 4 months, how do you upgrade? If you've already got, yeah, totally. American Quilt Company exists. Marianne found it. AmericanQuilt.co. Yeah. And Teacher Stitch, you got it. You know it. It's the Jane Austen quilt. Jane Austen made this quilt. That's true. Oh, they don't have any information about it, but can I say this? I think so. Quilt Folk, we did the Emily Bronte sisters quilt as a workshop. It was a rousing success. Beatrix Potter is next. We're working on that now because Beatrix Potter made a quilt and her mother made a wedding quilt for her that's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. I've never seen a quilt like it. It's so beautiful. And we're going to do the Jane Austen quilt in the fall. So you heard it here first. I leaked it. Okay, more quilt postcards. I mean, Mother Earth, Father Sky too. Oh yeah, hand stitched and hand quilted in cotton by Joe Diggs. I've got a file on Joe Diggs because Joe Diggs is a big deal, and we should talk about her for sure. This is great. This is really great. Look at this. This is from an the International Exhibition of Quilts, 1990 in Japan, and this is Joe Diggs as well. That's pretty great. 1990. Fascinating. I could look at these all day. I guess we are. Kingman Centennial Quilt, Arizona. Okay. Arizona Centennial. Craft Center. What was that? Where's the front of this one? I'm not sure. Sorry. Here is another demonstration with a bonnet. My friend and photographer Melanie Zacek, who is one of 2 brilliant photographers that takes pictures for Quilt Folk. Melanie and her sisters love the I don't know. They're all so beautiful, and they have this long hair and, you know, peasant dresses and like bonnets. They look perfect in them. And I've seen pictures of them, you know, in like or have I seen pictures of them in bonnets? Or we just feel like the Zacek girls should just wear bonnets all the time and be standing in a field of wheat. If you saw them, you would understand. So that was from Kentucky. It was a crafts demonstration. Okay, wow, what's this? I think this one's from the Japan exhibit. Well, yeah, Fabric Gardens by Rachel Lieberman, and the quilt is called Rose Garden. And it was at the International Exhibition of Quilts in 1990. It's fabulous. Yeah, she's another person for me to look at. I'll have to go back through these later. This is interesting. This is a postcard that is like a catalog. See those numbers? Those little numbers up there? Is that a quilt in a hoop? It is. It is. Look, it's a hoop quilt. Bring it back. I'm telling you. Bring back the hoop quilt. It has huge potential. I'm not kidding. Look, see, this is an order form. You can order this. It's kind of a good idea, you know. Double Irish Sparrow, number 101. You know, pretty clever. Okay. Let me just see. I mean, I've got like, there's so many. Okay, we can't go through all of these. I think I have like 140 of them or something like that. So we'll look at more of them later. I should probably, it's about 10 to 1. And I have to let me just find one of my favorites here. I have, you know, it's a work day. I've got to do a call. Look at this one. Let me just pull up some really good ones. That's the Chansey Memorial Arch. The Memorial Arch on Tappan Square commemorates the deaths during the Boxer Rebellion of 13 adults and their 5 children who went from Oberlin to serve as missionaries in China's Chansey province. This quilt block, made by Sigrid Johnson, is one of 30 from the Oberlin quilt, now displayed in Mudd Library, Oberlin, Ohio. I really like the scribble on this. It's like, Dear James, like, forget it. I'm not writing this postcard. Interesting. It's kind of a, you know, it's beautiful and it's pretty somber, right? Maybe she was like, what am I thinking? James will never write me back if I send him this. Sorry. That's right. I don't have a Bonnet Padma, but I need to get one. That's right. I put us all in fake bonnets. That was my little, Photoshop. That was my Photoshop. Okay. This is wonderful. This is that's a beautiful postcard. It's fabulous. Let's see some other really good ones. This is lovely. Newfoundland. Look, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. There. Now, don't you feel better already? Newfoundland, Labrador, Canada. It's like a promotional postcard for Labrador, Canada, or Newfoundland. Okay. What else we got? What are the really good ones? That one's good. This is fabulous. You know, fabulous. It's art. It's art. Oh, this is really good. Look at this. Cincinnati. There's a couple of these, actually. A couple copies of this. This was the Ohio Bicentennial. It's a detail of a Ohio Bicentennial quilt. I love it. It's so great. It's so great. This, everything about this. All roads lead to the Pennsylvania National Quilt Extravaganza, 1996. So awesome. Isn't this great? I love it. It looks like a concert poster or some kind of propaganda, but it's a quilt show. It's a quilt show postcard. Maybe, is it a poster? Is this actually a poster? No. Return this card in an envelope with $1 for the instructions to receive a complete brochure for activities and competition. If you receive this card at the address on the label attached, please check here. I love it. It's perfect. It's perfect. Propaganda. Yeah, totally propaganda. Nancy, by the way, says she made a comment about the Fraktur. Sorry, I forgot to go back to that. Fraktur is German. Distelfink came about because the artist was German and couldn't pronounce thistlefinch. That's that bird. That's so awesome. The bird he was painting was a thistlefinch, and he couldn't say it, and so he said Distelfink. You get the nerd award for today. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, okay, there's just like lots of good stuff. Lady, here's an illustration. I believe that's a Russian postcard. I believe I read that on it. What else have we got? Oh, this is a two-sided bicentennial quilt. Love it. This is gorgeous. So all of these are just really fun. They're really fun. And I'll send them out. So that's it. All right. Yes, anytime the word extravaganza is used, I'm usually excited about it. Okay, so everybody, that's the show for today. Oh, wow, that's kind of a problem. Oh, okay, yeah, and I'm a little bit. Let's just okay. I don't know. Okay. Thanks for coming today. I had a blast with you. I'm really glad that you came. I think Thursday at 11 a.m. Central is a really great time for a show. I used to think, oh, I don't know, maybe that's inconvenient for some folks, but it seems like we get some of the people working at home around lunchtime. They can take a break, and some people are lucky to be able just to be sewing these days and hanging out. And it's my favorite thing to do. I have look. American Quilts Company, Pre-Cuts, a floral/flower show in the spring, Quilts and Hoops, Rotary Cutters, Yours Truly Publishing, Die Cutters, Sunbonnet Sue, subscription boxes, the quilt subscription boxes. Those are all ideas that go into the file. Okay. Have a wonderful day, and tomorrow night, New Year's Eve, 10:30 Central, if you want to hang out and bring in the new year together, I think that'll be really fun. So take care. And somebody said that the show cuts off or something weirdly before I'm done. I'm working on that. I don't know why, but I'm going to end the stream now. And if it stops in the middle of my sentence, I know now that it's doing that. So I'll fix it.